Alright folks, welcome back to Top Comics Pressing. This video is going to kick off a case study here on a giant size X-Men #1. You'll know that this is one of the favorites of the channel. This particular copy is coming to us pre-graded by CGC in a slightly older slab here with the sticker on the outside, so you can see that and the kind of wavy label on the inside. So totally happy that they changed this particular slab formation or orientation. This one is a pre-graded 7.5 copy off-white white pages, and I'll let you grab that serial number there if you want. The single grader note is whole book foxing, and we definitely can see that. Now, my only concern with cracking this one is if there is intense foxing on the inner pages. That's going to cause some problems for us, but you can see some of the foxing right up here across the top edge. If you look at the bottom edge, you go, ooh, gross, right? So this is probably a combination of tanning and foxing. And then this darker line here, I would actually call a dust shadow right there. You can see that really intense dark line. The little stuff up here is foxing, but that really dark line across there, I would actually call it dust shadow. If we flip it back on over to the back here, you can see that there is a lot of foxing across that back cover, and there's a little bit more across the top up here as well. So this one I think is going to be a pretty solid candidate for us to crack and try to do our blue LED magic on. I gave it a good look over, and it looks pretty clean other than that. So, I mean, there's a little itty bitty micro crease up there. You can see a little dash of white. You know, you can see a few speckles of white in the black here, but nothing too major. I didn't see any creases as I was trying to evaluate it. No other real stains. I think that this is, you know, a little bit of something we'll try to clean off, but I don't think that that will really limit you too much on the grade. And, you know, if you look it on over, the rest of it is really sharp. I don't see any creases. It's just the whole book foxing is keeping it down. So this one, I think it has a good chance for a really nice bumpski. And so we're going to go ahead and crack it out. Now, I will say with this really intense foxing, both down here and on the front cover, that, you know, I don't think you'll be able to get 100% of that out. So we're going to go for that 85, 90% threshold, which is kind of what I target, but this one I think is going to get our full 10 blue LED treatments. So stay tuned, we'll come on back. I'm going to grab a picture and then we'll get cracking. All right, here we are back, and just so you don't have to see me sitting here peeling at a sticker for minutes with a glove on, I took my gloves off, peeled the sticker off, and we'll go ahead and start with the cracking process here. Again, I usually like to start right in the top center. That way if you slip or whatever, you're as far away from the book as you can get, and usually just jam a screwdriver in that top seam. Typically the corner posts pop a little bit better. There we go, that's what we're looking for. And then there we go. So, the older slabs are not glued anywhere near as good, and as you can see, they just rip right apart. Go ahead and drop that off. Now this one's got a little bit of gap on both sides, so what I'm going to do here is just gently tap it down as far as I can to make it as big of a gap on top as possible. We're going to have to be really careful over here because you can see that that cover sticking out from the inside pages, which is quite unfortunate. So I'm gonna have to be really delicate on that one. And these older holders, you know, you can just see how blue they are. I have a whole bunch from this era I want to send and just get re-slabbed because they look gross. If you don't believe me, there's a sheet of printer paper over here. You just see how blue that slab looks there. It's like definitely not transparent. So it's any of the ones where this tag is kind of stuck up there. It's definitely not good looking years later. Good news though is it slices super easy, which is nice because I do not want it to be any closer to that than I have to be. Good. Now the unfortunate thing when you don't have a big enough gap is you can see that that plastic is all jagged there. And so what I'm going to try to do is cut most of that off ahead of time with the scissors to make sure I don't snag the book on it accidentally. I'm just going to cut myself as big of a swath here as I can with the scissors. Usually cut down both faces anyway, just to give it enough clearance. But these giant sized ones are obviously giant size, they're super thick, and so that lip is gonna fold on over. So, but now it should be clear sailing on out, and we can see how this book looks. So good news, is the pages on the interior, are definitely, I would say, off-white-ish, but they're not horrible, so that's good. And the other thing that's a really, really good sign is while we can see some of that foxing on the interior cover down here, it does not look like really intense foxing there. It just looks like discolored page. This, by the way, here is quite normal. It just means it went through the printer and squished, so that's from when it originally was run through the printer. Nothing to do about that. Here's the microchamber paper. And again, I think we lucked out here on the interior page. I'm not seeing any of that foxing, although if you look right there on that bottom corner, you can see a little bit of light creasing that we might have missed before or wasn't noted. That's super hard to see through 2 layers of plastic. And I think, fortunately, that might not break color or gloss. So that might come out with a press. There's some damage up here, too, that you can see up in that corner. So other than that, though, this thing just looks like it needs some of our blue light magic. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some pictures of this, and then we'll come on back and look at some dry cleaning. I don't see a reason to do a ton of dry cleaning here, so I think that'll be a very short video. All right, coming back with some light dry cleaning here on this Giant Size X-Men #1. So we got our standard click eraser, and I didn't really see a ton that needed work. This little thing I think is some scratch or indent or rust, but it's definitely not dry cleaning off. And there wasn't a whole lot on this one that I think needed dry cleaning. Foxing does not dry clean off. Now, we can try whatever this little goop is up here. Yeah, and that's dry cleaning off quite nicely. At least we're definitely lightening it. Just a little bit of stick residue from something. So got that just fine. Maybe a very little bit up here of very, very, very light soiling. Ooh, we got a light fingerprint right there. Ooh, that's the fingerprint on the N on the X-Men. You see it right there. That is going to be unfortunate, so we'll have to see what we can do about that. Those tend not to dry clean off very well, but that will probably keep us from too high of a grade, and I don't want to take any of that red with me because that would look super disgusting. Very light over the staples. Do not want to push the paper through the staples. You can hear the crinkle, you can kind of see it there, and it's just the poor construction in this book. These square bounds sometimes press really, really nicely, and sometimes they press like absolute garbage, and it all has to do with how they're stuck together. So you can see that this one actually looks square, and all those wraps actually are on top of each other, and the cover material actually looks pretty tight. And it looks pretty good on both the front and the back, or sorry, the top and the bottom. On occasion, those inner wraps are not actually on top of each other, and they look horrible when you line them up that way. And that can cause a lot of problems when you press it. And it's not really something one does right or wrong, it's just the book got stapled. I've actually had this book before when several of the inner pages weren't even connected to the bottom staple. And it's not because they were detached by somebody reading them, it's because they were stapled crooked at the top and never even made it into the staple on the bottom, which obviously means there's absolutely no way for me to make the spine look square, because I can't undo the staple, move a couple of the wraps that are glued together, and then reattach it. It's just not going to happen. Well, there was another really light fingerprint there, so turns out somebody did leave some fingerprints on this thing. Happy we're giving it a good once over here with the eraser. Now, fingerprints are a contentious topic. I've seen many people blast their cleaner impressor on a CGC board because the notes say fingerprint, and the people think you should always clean it off. But when it's a black fingerprint on color like this, that is very dangerous to clean off, or at least I would be very hesitant to, because you're going to take some of that red ink with it. The other thing that comes up is sometimes with fingerprints, you will actually see white lines in the color where the oils have deteriorated the ink, and that's also permanent, right? You can't go put the ink back unless you want to do color touch. So both of those things I think are problematic. You can sometimes clean them off of white, and if they're really, really light on a modern book, you know, you might only have seen them in the glare. But once it gets to a point where it's visible on ink like that, you know, it's a dicey maneuver to try to clean that off. So all right, this one is going to get our full suite of 10 blue light treatments. Again, I've got videos on how I set those up. We're going to do 3 on the front cover, 3 on the back cover, then we're going to do 2 on the interior back cover, and then we're going to do 2 on the interior front cover. So, and then we're pretty much going to call it, because that pretty much maxes out how far I can go. Eventually, sometimes maybe, you know, I'll do 3 on the interior covers for a total of 12, but I try not to go above 12 or 15 total treatments. You will start to see some ink fade at that stage. So that's usually kind of my upper ceiling. Hopefully this one will go good. I'll try to give you some updates throughout the process, so stay tuned. All right, true believers, here is a look at this copy of Giant Size X-Men #1. You'll notice in the glare there, we've got kind of our standard wrinkly look after our blue LED overlay treatments. This book ended up getting 4 treatments on the front cover, 4 treatments on the back cover, 3 treatments on the interior back cover, and 3 treatments on the interior front cover. So that is a total, I believe, of 14 treatments. So that is 28 hours under the light. You'll notice all in all, it looks quite nice, I think, compared to where we started. There was, you know, a little bit of that residual foxing down here that I was unable to clear out. And you can kind of see some of that down there as well. And so, you know, all in all, this book looks a whole heck of a lot better, I would say. It's definitely brighter from arm's length. A lot of that really disgusting stuff that was down here is now mitigated and looks a whole lot better. And so it's much improved. Hopefully CGC will think so too. We're just going to pop it in the press and flatten it out to try to get rid of some of those light wrinkles. All right, one final look here at this copy of Giant Size X-Men #1. So I took before and after pictures of this, so we'll be able to post that on Facebook and Instagram. That dot there is on the bag, not on the comic. You know, this one I think looks a lot better. So, you know, we had a bunch of foxing, particularly down here, even up on this edge, and all that's cleared up. The back cover looks much improved. You can see here, if you really inspect it, there's still a dinge line on the bottom, and that I think is gonna be there to stay. We probably could keep treating this if we really wanted to, but in my experience, you'll start fading, particularly that red on the cover of this book, if you really push it. You could also, spot treat on the edge of it, but that tends to generate new tide lines going up into the comic book, and it's something that I try not to do. And so with how intense that one was, I'm going to call that a pretty big win. So this one was a 7.5 copy, and I'm optimistic we'll be able to get this one a pretty solid bump ski into that 8.0 space or above. So hopefully this one will come back. I'm optimistic at a 9.0. At least that will hopefully be my target. There's really only incredibly minor spine stress lines otherwise, other than that very light kind of residual staining that you can see. So hopefully that'll get considered very light foxing, and you can have very light foxing all the way up into a 9.4 comic book. All right, so stay tuned for the final decision. All right, folks, welcome back for the gripping conclusion of this Giant Size X-Men #1. And thankfully, do I have a bumpski to report for you. This one's coming back to the owner, a 8.5 white pages. So if you recall, this one was a 7.5 copy with off-white to white pages. And yet again, our blue LED work with our bled overlays has restored not only a bumpski in universal grade, but it delivered a modest but very much desired increase in the page quality to that all critical white pages. So this one's another win here for Top Comics Pressing. Please go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Click the subscribe right down below if you're not a subscriber. YouTube tells me about half the people watching the video are actually not subscribers, so just hit that button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps the channel out. Feel free to shoot a link to your friends at a different social media site or drop a comment in the comment section down below. As always, appreciate you watching. Stay tuned and keep on collecting.